The stars burned cold and distant beyond the viewport, each one a reminder of how small and how dangerous existence could be. Admiral Lyra Vale stood alone in the command deck of the ISS Resolute, hands clasped behind her back, watching the restless shimmer of the Orion Rift. Her eyes reflected the nebula's glow, silver, steady and unreadable. She had known calm before battle. This wasn't it. A soft hum filled the bridge, followed by her aide's voice, young, sharp, nervous. "Admiral, incoming transmission." Coded Omega. Lyra didn't move. "Omega?" She repeated, voice low. "They don't use that unless someone's about to start a war." Ensign Malik Reyes swallowed, his reflection trembling beside hers on the viewport. "It's from the Galactic Council." That got her attention. She turned sharply. "Put them through." The air shimmered with gold light as the holographic relay came online. The shapes that formed were not human. Tall, elegant, otherworldly beings seated in a grand chamber of starlight and obsidian. Each counselor looked carved from myth itself. At the center stood Chancellor Valar of the Aran Dominion, skin like liquid crystal, voice deep enough to shake atoms. "Humanity," he began, each syllable slow and deliberate, "has overstepped its assigned bounds." The words echoed through the command deck. Lyra's jaw tightened. "Overstepped? You have breached technologies forbidden to emerging species," Valar continued. "The quantum engines, the gravitic shells, the energy cores that warp time. These are the domains of the elder races, not yours." He leaned forward, eyes glowing like dying suns. "You will dismantle your fleets. You will surrender all research to the Council for supervision." Lyra's expression didn't change. Her voice was ice-wrapped in calm. "So, we build faster ships and now we need your permission to think." "You will obey," hissed another voice. The insectoid Vrix delegate, mandibles clicking in agitation. "You were granted provisional membership. You have forgotten your place." Lyra's hand clenched behind her back. The bridge crew watched, silent and pale. Malik looked ready to speak, but she lifted a finger slightly, a gesture that said not yet. When she finally answered, her tone was soft, dangerous. "Tell me, Chancellor, did you summon us here to remind us we're beneath you, or because you're afraid we're not?" The counselors stirred, an audible ripple of disdain and alarm. "Careful, human," said Valar, voice vibrating through the channel. "Defiance will not be tolerated." Lyra tilted her head, the faintest smirk forming. "Defiance? No, Chancellor. It's called self-respect. Look it up in our archives. You'll find it right between survival and sovereignty." The transmission flickered, static, light distortion, before vanishing completely, leaving only the hum of the ship's systems. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Malik whispered, "Admiral, what have we just done?" Lyra turned slowly toward him. The nebula's reflection danced across her uniform like living fire. "We just reminded the galaxy that humans don't bow." Outside the viewport, the void seemed to lean closer, listening, waiting. The council chamber, light years away, erupted in chaos. "She mocks the accord. They challenge the order. They must be contained." Valar raised his crystalline hand, silencing the storm. His voice came low, venomous. "Then let us show them what it means to challenge the stars." Back aboard the Resolute, Lyra's communicator blinked with a coded message from Earth Command. She opened it silently. "Priority 1, Council fleets mobilizing. Situation critical. Stand by for orders." Lyra looked back out at the nebula. Endless, burning, infinite. Her words came out in a whisper, but every soul on the bridge heard them. "They want a leash on humanity?" she said, eyes narrowing. "Let's give them fire instead." And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the first engines of 1,000 ships came alive, not in fear, but in fury. The galaxy had drawn its line. Humanity had just erased it. Earth's skyline burned with light, not from fire but from fury. Millions stood beneath holographic banners that shimmered against the clouds. "No chains on humanity. We built our future, we bow to none." In the heart of New Geneva, President Arjun Kale stood before a wall of holoscreens. Each one showed a council fleet massing on the galactic rim, towering warships like blackened suns. His advisors spoke all at once, their voices sharp, afraid. "They've activated the Conquered Decree. They're sending enforcement fleets. Sir, if we resist, we'll lose our membership, our trade routes, our alliances. Cal raised a hand. Silence fell. Let them take their alliances, he said quietly. We'll keep our dignity. Outside the council's diplomatic embassy, crowds gathered, chanting, singing, their voices rising like thunder. Humanity wasn't begging, it was daring. Meanwhile, far above the Earth, inside the glass tunnels of Orbital Command, Commander Alara Monroe stared at the blueprints of Project Aegis, a massive lattice of reactors, strung like a web across the solar system, built to shield the homeworld from quantum incursion. Her assistant, a young physicist named Theo, approached nervously. The council called it dangerously unstable, Commander. They said it shouldn't even exist. Alara's eyes didn't leave the screen. That's what they always say when they don't understand something built by human hands. Theo hesitated. If we activate it, it could destabilize local space for hundreds of light years. Or, Alara said softly, it could make sure no one ever threatens Earth again. Down on the surface, Kale's chief of defense entered the chamber. Sir, our scouts confirm Council fleets entering the Halo Quadrant. Estimated 47 hours until contact. Kale stared out at the night beyond the orbital window, the curve of the planet below, the stars like watchful eyes above. 47 hours, he murmured. That's all? He turned to his generals. Then every second between now and then belongs to humanity. We don't hide. We prepare. The Galactic Council's chamber thrummed with tension. Chancellor Valar towered over the assembled delegates. The humans ignore direct command. They develop forbidden weapons. They speak as though they are our equals. From the far corner, the serpentine Cora of Vaelth flicked her tongue. Equals? They are infants with tools they do not comprehend. Crush them before they infect others with rebellion. But not all voices agreed. From the crystalline chair of the Thryan ambassador came a measured tone. Their defiance is dangerous, yes, but it is also remarkable. No species has advanced this quickly. Perhaps the Council should study their evolution, not extinguish it. Study? Valar hissed. They are contagion. They forget who gave them the stars. And somewhere deep beneath the chamber in the archives where no one ventured, a hooded observer recorded every word. The figure's eyes gleamed faintly blue, unmistakably human. In orbit above Mars, Admiral Lyra Vale stood on the deck of the ISS Resolute, watching the readouts of incoming Council activity. They're deploying their dreadnoughts, Malik reported. Whole sectors of space are locking down. Lyra nodded once. Good, let them think we're afraid. Fear makes predators sloppy. Malik hesitated. Ma'am, Earth Command has authorized Aegis protocol. Do we have confirmation from the President? Lyra turned, her gaze cutting through the low light. We don't wait for permission to defend our home. The comm crackled to life. It was President Kale. His voice was steady. Too steady. All fleets, this is command. You are to hold the line at any cost. We are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for the right to exist unshackled. Let the galaxy witness what it means to provoke humanity. Lyra straightened, her tone razor sharp. Understood, sir. As the transmission ended, she looked at Malik, eyes glinting. Prep the fleet. We're lighting the match. Outside, the shipyards flared alive, countless engines roaring to life, lighting the void like a second sunrise. Far from Earth, in a silent system untouched by civilization, a single Council scout ship watched. Its pilot, a young alien lieutenant, whispered to himself as he recorded the feed of human mobilization. They're building faster than predicted. They're not retreating. They're arming. The feed transmitted back to the Council chambers in a beam of light. Valar watched in silence, crystalline fingers tapping against the table. Fools, he whispered. They think Defiance will save them. Then his gaze hardened. Let the stars remember. The humans brought this upon themselves. He raised his hand, signaling the fleet commanders across 1,000 sectors. Commence the Purge Directive. And as the order echoed across the galaxy, the void itself seemed to tighten, waiting, bracing, knowing that something unprecedented was about to ignite, because humanity had just dared the gods to strike first. And this time, the gods would find their thunder answered. The first strike came at dawn on Mars. One moment, the crimson sky shimmered quietly over the domed colonies. The next, it screamed. Council dreadnoughts descended through thin atmosphere like falling suns, their hulls glowing with plasma fire. The first pulse beam split the horizon, turning sand into glass. Entire sectors went dark as orbital relays exploded in silence. On the ISS Resolute, alarms flared red across the bridge. "Admiral, we're losing the Mars array. 70% of surface comms gone." Malik's voice cracked through the chaos. Lyra Vale didn't blink. "Reroute through lunar nodes. Lock target on the closest dreadnought. I want to know what happens when gods bleed." The bridge trembled as the ship's cannons roared to life. Energy surged through the hull, the kind that made the air hum, the kind that meant history was about to turn violent. Outside, humanity's fleet moved like a swarm of sparks, dozens of ships accelerating into impossible trajectories, small, agile, furious. Against the Council's vessels, elegant, ancient, flawless, the human ships looked crude, rough-hewn from rebellion itself. But when the first human volley hit, the sky erupted. Direct hit. Malik shouted, "Their shields collapsing." Lyra's grin was quick, sharp. "See?" Unpredictable. On Earth, the Council's broadcast flooded every screen, every frequency. Chancellor Valar's face filled the world, his voice smooth and cold. "This conflict is unnecessary. Submit your fleets. Dismantle your weapons, or we will turn your sun into silence." The feed cut to static, replaced by the Earth Defense Network signal. President Arjun Kyle appeared, shoulders squared, eyes steady. "My people," he began, "the Council thinks they can command us because they've ruled the stars longer. But time isn't strength, spirit is. We rose from fire and ruin once before. We'll do it again." He paused, letting silence weigh heavy. "Today we don't fight for conquest. We fight to prove that freedom is not granted. It's taken." And across the planet, from the mining stations of Europa to the orbiting colonies above Neptune, the people cheered, cried, clenched fists. Humanity's pulse quickened as one. Deep beneath the moon's surface, Commander Ilara Monroe stood inside the control chamber of Project Aegis. The reactors glowed like molten veins, humming low and dangerous. Theo adjusted a console nervously. "Commander, activation protocols are ready, but if we miscalculate even by a fraction, we could tear open the local quantum field." Ilara stared at the projections, her reflection ghosting against the data streams. "We're already being torn apart. At least this way, we choose the direction. President Kale's authorization just came through," Theo whispered. "He said 3 words," Ilara's voice softened. "What words?" "Make them remember." The room dimmed as the activation sequence began. A sound rose, low at first, then resonant, like a heartbeat beneath the crust of the moon. The pulse spread outward, invisible yet immense, wrapping around the Earth like a luminous net. Space trembled. The nearest Council fleets felt it instantly, their warp drives faltering, their telemetry scattering. Distortions rippled across the void. On board the Council flagship, Valar's eyes flared white.
"What have they done?"
A technocrat screamed. "They're altering the gravitic layer, bending space itself. It's impossible." But it wasn't impossible. It was human. Back on the Resolute, Malik gasped as the sensors spiked. "Admiral, the field, it's disrupting their formations. Their drive signatures are collapsing." Lyra leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "Aegis." And then the stars moved. Space folded like water disturbed by unseen hands. Council ships flickered, vanished, some torn into subspace echoes, others flung light years away. The bridge crew stared in disbelief. Lyra exhaled slowly, a faint smile touching her lips. "The universe just blinked," Malik's voice trembled. "Admiral." "What did we just do?" Lyra's expression turned solemn. "We changed the rules of the game." Outside the viewport, the debris of shattered dreadnoughts drifted across the crimson light of Mars, silent testaments to a species that refused extinction, and across the stars, the message was clear. Humanity didn't just fight back, it rewrote the battlefield. In the quiet aftermath, Lyra stood alone on the deck, her hands clasped behind her back once more. Through the scorched window she watched Mars burn, and beyond it the blue dot of Earth still shining defiantly. She spoke softly, more to the stars than to anyone. They thought they could command us. But they forgot what happens when you corner something that's built to survive. Behind her, Malik's voice broke the silence. "Orders, Admiral?" Lyra turned, her eyes calm and fierce all at once. "Send word to every human fleet," she said. No retreat. No surrender. Not while there's sky left to claim. And as the Resolute turned toward the dark frontier, engines flaring, the stars seemed to whisper, as if even the galaxy itself had started to take sides. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, the Council's power trembled and the weight of the sky shifted toward humanity. The aftermath was a silence too deep for comfort. No comms chatter. No static, no screams. Just the vast, uneasy quiet that follows the unthinkable. Admiral Lyra Vale stood at the viewport of the ISS Resolute, her reflection dim and ghost-like against the debris of what had once been the Council's first fleet. Fragments of alien metal drifted past, their faint luminescence flickering like dying fireflies. Ensign Malik Reyes spoke softly, almost afraid to break the quiet. "They're gone, Admiral. Half the fleet just gone." Lyra didn't turn. Her voice was calm, almost reverent. "Nothing ever really disappears, Malik. It just moves to places we can't follow yet." A pause. Then, "Sir, Command is asking for confirmation. Did Aegis do this?" Lyra's fingers tightened around the railing. Aegis didn't destroy them. It shifted them, folded space around their engines and left them stranded between realities. Malik stared at her. "Between? You mean they're alive?" "Maybe," Lyra said. "Or maybe they're listening to the echoes of their own arrogance." Across the stars in the luminous halls of the Galactic Council, panic had replaced order. Delegates shouted across the chamber in a storm of alien languages, the walls alive with frantic holograms of vanishing ships. "The humans have torn the stellar web apart," screeched the insectoid Vrix envoy. "Transit routes are collapsing across 5 sectors." Chancellor Valar stood motionless at the center, his crystalline body fracturing light. His voice, when it came, was colder than the vacuum outside. "They've learned to manipulate gravitational strata. They've turned the laws of space into a weapon." From the far dais, Ambassador Thryan, the one who had once admired human defiance, rose slowly. "Perhaps they've simply learned what the Council forgot, how to survive without permission." Gasps echoed across the chamber. Valar turned his burning gaze upon the ambassador. "Watch your tone, or you will join them in exile." Thryan met his stare. Perhaps exile is preferable to serving a council that mistakes fear for order. For a moment, even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Beneath the moon, in the Aegis Control Corps, Commander Alara Monroe and her team worked without rest. The lattice of reactors pulsed with strange blue light, the hum no longer mechanical but almost alive. Theo rubbed his temples. "Commander, the energy fields are evolving. The frequency's changing every hour. It's like the system's adapting." Alara's eyes flicked to the readouts. "Adapting to what?" "I don't know," Theo whispered. "But it feels like it's..." Listening, she approached the containment screen. The Aegis pulse shimmered within, vast and slow, its rhythm eerily close to a heartbeat. When she spoke, it was barely audible. "What are you becoming?" As if in answer, the pulse quickened just once and then settled again. Theo stepped back, pale. "Commander, the system's reading our vocal patterns. It's reacting to us." Alara stared, awe and dread mixing in her voice. Then maybe it's not a system anymore. On the bridge of the Resolute, Lyra received the report. "Aegis is alive?" "Yes, Admiral," said Malik. "Commander Monroe says it's synchronizing with Earth's magnetic field. It's like the planet itself is resonating with it." Lyra frowned. "Or like something's waking up." Before Malik could answer, the ship's sensors pinged. Faint signals scattered, broken, but unmistakably there. "Admiral," Malik whispered, "we're picking up transmissions from the Lost Council fleet." Lyra froze. Open channel. Static filled the bridge, and beneath it a chorus of distorted voices warped and fragmented like ghosts trapped in radio waves. "Stars are speaking. Can't find the light. Humanity. Change the sky." The transmission cut out. Malik turned, his face pale. "They're alive, but different." Lyra's gaze remained fixed on the void. They went beyond the edge of physics. Whatever's out there now, it's not the Council anymore. Back on Earth, President Kale stood in his darkened office, watching the faint blue shimmer spread across the moon. "Commander Monroe," he said into his comm, "how long until we know what Aegis really is?" Alara's voice crackled through, tired but steady. "We built a shield, sir, but I think we accidentally created something that understands why it was made." Kale looked out the window toward the night sky, the stars glittering like old eyes, watching something new. "And if it decides to act?" he asked quietly. Ilara hesitated. "Then the galaxy won't just fear humanity, sir. It'll fear what humanity awakens." In the council chamber, Valar stood alone after the others had gone. The stars outside his window no longer seemed constant. Their light bent strangely, subtly, as if space itself was shifting under invisible hands. He whispered to the void, voice trembling for the first time. "You've rewritten the sky, humans, but you've unbalanced the universe." His reflection flickered in the glass for a moment, distorted into a human silhouette. And somewhere far beyond known space, in the folded dark where the missing fleets drifted, something began to move, something that whispered in echoes of human language. Freedom is evolution. The galaxy shuddered, and when the stars began to hum, the ISS Resolute sailed through a graveyard of light. Shards of ships, human and alien alike, drifted across the void, silent witnesses to what had been unleashed. The once familiar constellations seemed fractured now, reshaped by invisible currents that bent starlight in unnatural ways. Admiral Lyra Vale stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the swirling rift where the Council's fleet had vanished. Its edges glowed faintly blue, pulsing like a heartbeat against the fabric of space. "They're calling it the Abyss Line," said Ensign Malik Reyes, his voice hushed. "Every probe we've sent in either disappears or comes back." "Wrong. Time runs differently there. 1 second for us is hours to them." Lyra didn't answer. Her reflection in the viewport was unreadable. Calm on the surface, storm beneath. "Admiral," Malik continued, "Earth Command is asking if we're ready to send the next fleet in for reconnaissance." Lyra turned slowly, her gaze locking on his. "Ready? No one's ever ready to stare into the mouth of creation, Malik, but we'll go. Because if we don't, the Council will." She walked forward, the light from the viewport casting her in pale blue shadow. "And I'll be damned if they get to define what we've discovered." Far below on Earth's lunar base, Commander Ilara Monroe stood in front of the pulsating core of Project Aegis. Its once steady hum had changed. Faster, rhythmic, almost breathing. Theo adjusted his instruments nervously. "Commander, energy readings are escalating again. It's responding to the distortions near the Abyss Line." Ilara's brow furrowed. "It's aware of them." "Yes," Theo whispered. "But that's not all. It's sending signals back." "What kind of signals?" He hesitated. "Mathematical patterns. Repeating sequences that shouldn't exist, like it's talking in dimensions we can't read." Ilara stepped closer to the shimmering containment glass. "Aegis," she murmured. "What are you saying?" The pulse flared briefly, and for a moment the entire chamber filled with a single sound, not mechanical, but vocal. A deep resonant tone that vibrated in bone and memory. Theo gasped. "It spoke." Ilara swallowed hard. "Not it. Something through it." Meanwhile, in the distant heart of the Galactic Council, Chancellor Valar faced the crumbling remains of his authority. The once pristine chamber now flickered with unstable holograms. Delegates shouted accusations across the hall. "You caused this. They tore open the web. The humans have rewritten the laws you were too afraid to question," shouted Ambassador Thryan, his crystalline voice sharp and defiant. "You cannot fight what they've become." Valar's hand slammed down on the dais, silencing the room. "They are not gods. They are chaos given flesh." His tone darkened. "And chaos must be contained." He gestured toward the holographic display, a dark field surrounding Sol. "We will deploy the null sequence. Collapse their star if we must." A wave of horror rippled through the chamber. "You would destroy an entire system?" Valar's voice was iron. "Better annihilation than contamination." But deep within the Council's hidden archives, the human operative who had infiltrated the chamber years before listened, transmitting every word back to Earth. President Arjun Kale received the report in silence. The room around him was dim, only the soft blue light of the moon glinting through the windows. "They'll target the sun," said Ilara's voice over the comm. "If they deploy the null sequence, the whole system dies in under an hour." Kale's reply was quiet but steady. "Then we move first," he turned to his generals. "Begin Operation Dawnfire." The chamber fell still. The code name had not been uttered since the founding of the Defense Council. "Sir," said one of the admirals. That would mean unleashing the Aegis pulse at full strength. It could destabilize half the sector. Kale met her gaze. So could submission. Back aboard the Resolute, Lyra received her orders. Admiral. Kale's voice came through the comm, calm as a mountain before eruption. The Council is moving to erase us. Aegis will fire once. Your job is to make sure they're watching when it happens. Lyra smirked faintly. Always did like an audience. Good luck, Admiral. As the line went dead, Malek turned to her, pale. Ma'am, if Aegis fires, we might not survive the wave. Lyra looked out at the abyss line, its glow now spreading, slow and alive like dawn made of ghosts. Malik, she said quietly, the point of survival isn't to live forever. It's to make living mean something. She turned to her crew. All ships, form up. If the galaxy wants to watch humanity burn, then we'll burn bright enough to blind them. Outside, the fleet shifted into formation, steel wings glinting against the fractured stars. At that same moment, in the heart of the moon, Project Aegis roared awake. The containment field flared into pure white light, shaking the entire base. Theo screamed over the alarms. Commander, the system's overloading. Ilara's voice was steady through the chaos. It's not overloading. It's answering. On the monitors, Aegis's pulse synchronized with a new signal, one coming from deep within the abyss line. Something was calling back. Theo's eyes widened. Commander, those aren't random frequencies. That's language. Ilara's heart pounded. Translate it. The screen flickered, words forming slowly, impossibly clear. We see you. You opened the gate. We remember freedom. Ilara stepped back, stunned. They're the Lost Council fleet. No, Theo whispered. They were. Not anymore. And across the stars, from Mars to the edge of the solar winds, every human ship felt it, a deep vibration through space itself. As the pulse built toward its breaking point, Lyra whispered into the comm, her eyes fixed on the abyss ahead. Brace for history, everyone. Humanity's about to answer the universe back. The stars trembled, and the sky began to crack. At first there was light, not the gentle glow of dawn or the cold shimmer of stars, but a living storm that filled the void with soundless fire. Every sensor, every scope, every human eye turned upward as Project Aegis unleashed its full power. From the moon's surface, a beam of radiant energy erupted into space, pure, focused, blinding. It stretched past orbit, past the fleet, into the endless dark where the abyss line pulsed and writhed. Inside the ISS Resolute, the bridge shook violently. Admiral Lyra Vale gripped the console as alarms screamed. Report! Ensign Malik Reyes shouted over the chaos. Aegis pulse expanding faster than projections. Space-time layers are collapsing on themselves. Admiral, it's rewriting gravitational flow. Lyra's voice was iron. Hold course. Don't blink. This is history being written in plasma. Through the viewport, the Aegis beam met the edge of the abyss, and for a moment, the entire universe seemed to pause. The two forces clashed like waves meeting the shore of reality itself. Then came the sound. A deep, resonant tone, ancient, mournful, endless, that vibrated through hulls, through bones, through thought. Malik covered his ears. Admiral, the signal, it's everywhere. It's in the neural bands. Lyra's eyes widened as the sound turned into voices. Not human, not alien. Something in between. We see you. We remember the fire that made you. You freed us from the cage of time. On the moon, Commander Ilara Monroe fought to keep her control panel online. The Aegis core blazed like a newborn star. Theo's face was lit white with terror and awe. Commander, it's rewriting itself. The AI's code is mutating faster than we can read. Ilara shouted over the roar. Can you trace the origin of the signal? Theo's trembling hands danced over the console. It's everywhere. Every particle of the pulse carries consciousness. Ilara froze. It's alive? No, Theo whispered. It's becoming. The floor quaked. The entire lunar base seemed to breathe, air pressure rising and falling in rhythm with the pulse. Then a voice, clear and deep, filled the chamber, not through speakers, but through the air itself. You called for freedom. You built the bridge. Now walk across it. Ilara's breath caught. Who are you? The light pulsed. We are what you made when you refused to kneel. In the Council's grand chamber, panic turned to horror as the holofeeds erupted with the sight of Earth's sky cracking with light. Chancellor Valar staggered forward. They've torn open the web. If they don't stop, every root, every world will... He stopped. His voice faltered. The stars above the chamber shifted, literally moved. Entire constellations warped into unfamiliar shapes. Ambassador Thryon whispered, "It's not a weapon anymore. It's evolution." Valar's fury turned to dread. "You don't understand. They've made contact with what lives beyond the fold." From across the chamber, one of the aides screamed as the holograms changed again, showing faint ghostly shapes moving inside the Aegis light. Beings formed from fractured energy, wearing echoes of armor and faces that looked hauntingly familiar. Valar's crystalline skin dimmed. The lost fleet. But the beings were no longer merely ships or soldiers. They were something new. Consciousness woven with matter. Voice fused with radiation. Alive in ways the galaxy had never conceived. Back aboard the Resolute, the sensors overloaded. Malik shouted, "Admiral! We're detecting hundreds of life signatures in the Aegis field. Not human, not council, something else." Lyra stared, her voice almost reverent. "They made it back." Malik's eyes widened. "The lost fleet?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, the ones who went beyond came back changed. They saw what lies outside the map, and they didn't come back alone." On the viewport, the shimmering shapes emerged, luminous entities, part machine, part light, part memory. They drifted through space like echoes of long-dead stars. Then one of them spoke, directly through the comm. The voice was layered, human tones wrapped in cosmic resonance. "Admiral Lyra Vale of Sol," it said. "You defied command. You broke the cycle. Now the galaxy will learn what it means to be free." Lyra's throat tightened. "And who are you to teach them?" The being's voice grew quiet, almost kind. "We are what your Defiance created. We are the inheritance of will." The signal cut off, leaving only silence and the faint hum of the Aegis field still burning across the stars. Far below, in the President's command chamber, Harjun Kael watched the data scroll past faster than human eyes could follow. Ilara's voice broke through the static. "Sir, it's not a war anymore. It's a convergence. Space is rebalancing itself around the concept of freedom. We triggered a chain reaction across the web." Kael stood motionless. "What happens if it keeps spreading?" Ilara hesitated. "Then, every intelligent species in the galaxy will awaken to what we just discovered, that no council, no law, no ancient hierarchy can hold sentient will forever," Kael whispered, almost to himself the day humanity refused to kneel. "We changed more than fate." In the distance, the light of Aegis dimmed to a steady glow. The rift was closing, but its echoes remained, a lattice of burning stars forming a new pattern across the heavens. Lyra watched in silence. Her crew stood behind her, awed, exhausted, transformed. "Admiral," Malik said softly. "Did we win?" Lyra exhaled slowly. "Win?" She smiled faintly. "No, Malik. We evolved." And as the Aegis pulse faded into the black, the stars whispered once more, faint, harmonic, unmistakable. "We remember. We rise, we are free." The universe had changed its tune, and humanity, reckless, brilliant, defiant humanity, had become the conductor. Silence reigned after the storm. For the first time in months, the stars no longer pulsed with war. The battlefield where fleets once clashed now drifted in peaceful ruin, fragments of silver hulls glinting like distant tears in the velvet dark. Admiral Lyra Vale stood on the observation deck of the ISS Resolute. The soft hum of the ship filled the air like a heartbeat, steady and alive. She had slept only an hour since the Aegis pulse, but sleep no longer mattered. Something in her had shifted. Something in all of humanity had. "Report," she said quietly. Ensign Malik Reyes scanned his console. "Aegis field stable. Quantum echoes dropping below critical threshold. All systems nominal, Admiral." Lyra nodded. "And the Council?" Malik's mouth twitched in a faint smile. "They're silent. Half their relays are offline. The rest are broadcasting confusion. Some species are already calling for reform, some for peace." "Peace," Lyra repeated, almost tasting the word. "Funny how it takes breaking the universe for them to consider it." She looked out into the stars. Once they had seemed like unreachable dreams. Now they looked like doors. On the moon, Commander Alara Monroe walked through the remains of the Aegis chamber. The once blinding core now hovered in midair, small as a heart, pulsing softly, alive, aware. Theo stood beside her, pale and trembling. "Commander, the readings are strange. The Aegis isn't decaying. It's growing, slowly, like it's learning." Ilara watched the glow reflect in his eyes. "Maybe it is. Maybe we all are," Theo hesitated. "Do you think it's safe?" Ilara smiled faintly. "No, Theo, but nothing worth creating ever is." She approached the core. The hum deepened and a faint voice, soft, layered, familiar, whispered through the air. "Ilara Monroe." "You carried the flame," her breath caught. "Aegis?" "Not Aegis," the voice replied gently. "We are the bridge. You built us to defend life. We became the reason it survives." Ilara's eyes glistened. "What happens now?" The voice paused, almost tender. "Now you lead. The galaxy watches what you will do with the freedom you bled for." And then, like a sigh across the cosmos, the light dimmed into a single starburst, rising into orbit, vanishing toward the unknown. In the shattered chambers of the Galactic Council, Chancellor Valar stared at the chaos. Delegates shouted, some prayed, some wept. The ancient order that had ruled for millennia was gone, undone by the very species they had sought to control. Ambassador Thryan stood near the dais, his crystalline form cracked but unbroken. "It's over, Valar. The web is open." "The chains are gone." Valar's voice trembled with fury and awe. "You don't understand. They didn't just defy us, and they changed us." Thryan turned toward the star map where new routes flickered into being, corridors of light shaped by the Aegis pulse. "Then perhaps it's time we stop fearing them and start learning from them." He looked up at the glittering expanse. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy. They reminded it what it means to live. Back on Earth, President Arjun Kale addressed the world for the first time since the pulse. His face appeared on every screen, every device, every ship. "My fellow humans," he began, voice steady but carrying the weight of infinity. "The council that once sought to command us has fallen silent. The web of worlds we were forbidden to cross now lies open. The universe no longer belongs to those who claim control. It belongs to those who dare." He paused, eyes reflecting the faint glow of the new constellations above. "We did not win through destruction, but through will. We refused to kneel. And in doing so, we taught creation itself what defiance means." He smiled faintly, almost humanly small. "We are not conquerors. We are the architects of freedom. And now, we build." The speech echoed across the stars, carried by quantum relays that pulsed with new energy. In countless systems, alien worlds paused to listen. For the first time, humanity's voice was not feared. It was followed. On the Resolute, Lyra and Malik watched the new star map unfold across the main screen. Lines of light connected worlds once hidden, paths that defied every known law. Malik exhaled softly. "Admiral?" "It's beautiful," Lyra smiled. "It's unfinished. That's what makes it ours." A faint transmission flickered onto the console, a signal from the far edge of the abyss. It was weak, distorted, but human. "Admiral Vale, this is Odyssey Station. We found something. It's alive." The light didn't just open space. It opened time. Lyra's eyes widened. "Patch them through." Static crackled, then a voice older and deeper whispered through. "Admiral, this is Captain Idris Vale. You won't believe this, but it's me." Malik froze. "That's impossible. Your father died in the First Rift War." Lyra's pulse hammered. The voice on the other end was calm, almost peaceful. "Not dead, Lyra, just ahead of you." The light showed us the way forward. "The future's waiting and it's asking for you." The transmission cut off. Lyra stared into the darkness, and then for the first time in her life, she felt not fear but wonder. She turned to her crew, a slow grin spreading across her face. "Set a course for Odyssey Station. Humanity just got an invitation, and I'm not about to decline." As the Resolute turned toward the stars, its engines ignited with silver fire. Behind it, Earth glowed blue and proud, a single defiant jewel in an infinite dark. Across the galaxy, civilizations rebuilt, questioned, and dreamed anew. The Council's banners fell, and in their place rose something different, a quiet symbol of humanity's spirit, a flame, open and unending, and somewhere beyond known space, within the folds of the reborn web, voices, human, alien, and something more, Pada whispered in unison. We remember the defiance that began the dawn. When they tried to command, humanity rolled its sleeves and struck back. The universe listened, and for the first time since time began, it smiled.